When my brother Robert said at the family meeting, "Margaret, you're getting old, your mind is confused, your financial affairs should be under our control," I knew it was time to reveal the truth I'd been hiding for 30 years. While he was trying to steal my money by calling me a forgetful old woman, I was about to show him the documents of his tax evasion, fake companies, and offshore accounts. Comment where you're watching from and stay until the end, because this isn't just a family fight. It's the exposure of 30 years of crime. My name is Margaret Walsh. I'm 75 years old and I live in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a retired teacher who taught high school English literature for 40 years. People see me as quiet, reserved, a typical elderly woman. But I have a secret. I've been documenting my brother Robert's criminal activities for 30 years. Robert is 3 years older than me, 78 years old. He appears to be a successful businessman, construction company owner, community leader, church deacon. But the reality is very different. It all started in 1992. Robert's business, Walsh Construction, was suddenly booming. He was getting government contracts, doing big projects, making a lot of money. I wasn't very involved with financial matters at the time, but something felt off. At Thanksgiving dinner in 1992, Robert had had a bit too much to drink, and the conversation slipped. "Margaret, you know what the secret to success is?" "Hard work," I said. "Smart accounting," he laughed. "Uncle Sam doesn't need to know everything." I didn't think much of it at the time. But as the years passed, Robert's lifestyle improved dramatically, while his officially reported income remained stable. Strange. In 1995, Robert got divorced. Financial documents were submitted to the court during the divorce proceedings. I was curious, so I made a public records request. There was a huge discrepancy between Robert's declared income and his actual lifestyle. According to court records, Robert was declaring $150,000 annually. But at the same time, he had bought a new $800,000 house, leased luxury cars, and taken expensive vacations. I became suspicious. I quietly began investigating. I started observing Robert's business: site visits, employee conversations, public contract records. A pattern emerged. When Robert bid on government contracts, he underreported the actual costs. When projects were completed, he received extra payments in cash. This cash income was never reported to the IRS. Even worse, he was manipulating subcontractor payments. While real payments were $50,000, he showed $30,000 in the books. The difference was transferred to offshore accounts. Employee payroll was also fraudulent. Ghost employees were on the list, people who didn't exist, but their paychecks went to accounts Robert controlled. Material costs were shown as inflated. He would invoice clients $20,000 for $10,000 worth of materials, diverting the extra $10,000 for personal use. From 1996 to 2022, this fraud continued systematically. Total estimated unreported income, approximately $4.5 million. I documented it all: photos, copies, records, dates, amounts, hidden in a file cabinet in the basement. Why didn't I report it? Because at that time, Robert had connections with business partners, and I was a single woman teacher. Who would believe me? Plus, family loyalty. I didn't want to destroy my brother. I hoped he would eventually stop. But in 2018, our father died. The inheritance of $600,000 was to be divided equally between Robert and me. But Robert had financial power of attorney and claimed that father's medical expenses had completely depleted the inheritance. Suspicious? Father's medical insurance was comprehensive. Expenses should have been minimal, but Robert couldn't show documentation. "Records lost," he said. In 2019, our mother died. Another inheritance situation. $400,000 was again to be divided equally. Again, Robert claimed expenses had depleted everything. This time, I was demanding. "Robert, I want to see detailed accounting." "Margaret, don't worry about complicated financial matters. Trust me." "Robert, this is my inheritance too. I have a right to documentation." "Margaret, you wouldn't understand anyway. Numbers confuse you. Numbers confuse me." The first insulting comment. In 2020, the pandemic began. Financial stress increased. Robert's behavior became more erratic, aggressive on phone calls, dismissive at family gatherings. In 2021, I discovered that Robert had sold Mother's house without telling me. The house had been sold for $850,000, with the proceeds going to Robert's account. A confrontation was inevitable. "Robert, you sold Mom and Dad's house without my consent." "Margaret, you weren't a co-owner. Only my name was on the deed." "But Robert, that house was family property. I had rights too." "Margaret, you're confused about these things. You don't understand legal matters." Confused. The second dismissive comment. "Robert, I'm not confused. You're dishonest." Robert's face changed. "Margaret, watch your accusations." "Robert, I've been observing you for years. Tax fraud, unreported income, inheritance theft." "Margaret, you're paranoid and delusional. These fantasies are dangerous." Fantasies, paranoid, delusional, the labels had started. In 2022, the situation escalated. Robert began making regular visits under the pretense of checking on me. But he was actually assessing my mental state. "Margaret, how's your memory? Do you remember recent events?" "My memory is fine, Robert." "Margaret, sometimes you repeat yourself. It concerns me. Repeat myself. A lie, a documented lie." "Margaret, you seem to be struggling with making financial decisions. Do you forget to pay bills?" Another lie. Bills were always on time. Automatic payments were set up. Then came the family intervention. Robert organized a meeting with our cousin Patricia, nephew Kevin, and niece Susan. We gathered in the living room. Robert led the meeting. "Everyone, we should be worried about Margaret. She's showing mental decline." "What kind of decline?" asked Patricia. "Memory issues, confusion about finances, repeating stories, poor judgment. All lies, complete fabrication." "Margaret," said Kevin, "how do you feel about these concerns?" "Feel?" Robert can lie because he can't handle the truth. "Margaret," Robert interrupted, "this is exactly an example of your delusional thinking." "Robert, I've been documenting your tax fraud for 30 years. It's not delusional. It's factual." The room went silent. "Margaret," Susan said gently, "that sounds unlikely." "Unlikely?" "Robert has been hiding $4.5 million from the IRS since 1992. Offshore accounts, fake invoices, ghost employees." Robert laughed. "Everyone, this is exactly my concern. Elaborate conspiracy theories." "Robert, they're not theories. I have evidence." "Evidence?" Patricia asked skeptically. 30 years of documentation, photos, records, bank statements. Robert smiled confidently. "Margaret, show the evidence." A challenge. Exactly what I had been waiting for. I stood up, went to the basement, and returned with a large file box. Here's your evidence. I put the box on the coffee table and opened it. Dozens of folders, hundreds of documents. 1992, Robert's first unreported cash payment. $25,000 from the Riverside Mall project. I showed the document, a photo of Robert receiving an envelope, with the date and amount noted. 1995, the ghost employee scheme began. Jason Martinez, a person who doesn't exist, but gets a monthly $3,000 paycheck to Robert's account. I showed Social Security records proving Jason Martinez was fictional. 1998, material cost inflation. Charged client $50,000, actual cost $22,000. The difference went to Robert's personal account. I showed invoices and bank records. The room had gone absolutely silent. 2003, offshore account opened in the Cayman Islands. Monthly transfers of $10,000 to $15,000. I showed bank statements. 2018, father's inheritance. Robert claimed medical expenses were $600,000. Actual expenses were $47,000. Robert stole $553,000. I showed medical bills and insurance records. 2019, mother's inheritance. Same pattern. Robert claimed expenses were $400,000. Actual was $31,000. Robert stole $369,000. More documentation. 2021, family house sold for $850,000. Robert said expenses depleted the proceeds. A lie. The money was transferred to offshore accounts, real estate records, and bank transfers. Robert's face had gone completely pale. "Margaret," he stammered, this is fabricated." Fabricated? Bank statements fabricated? IRS records fabricated? Property deeds fabricated? "Margaret, you're mentally ill. You're obsessed with destroying me." "Robert, I'm not mentally ill. I'm meticulous. I documented every one of your crimes for 30 years. Patricia was looking at the documents in shock. "Robert, these look real." Patricia, "Margaret is delusional. These are an elaborate hoax." "Robert," said Kevin, "these documents are very detailed." Margaret couldn't create these alone. She couldn't create them because she didn't create them. She collected them for years. Susan opened one of the folders. "Robert, isn't this your handwriting?" On an invoice were Robert's notes. "Cash payment, no record." Robert was cornered. "Everyone," I said calmly. "Robert is trying to have me declared mentally incompetent because he's afraid of revealing the truth." "Margaret," Robert whispered, "what do you want?" "Want justice, honesty, and my stolen inheritance back." "How much?" he asked quietly. $922,000. Father's and mother's inheritances, plus interest. Robert calculated. The numbers matched exactly. "And," I continued, "full disclosure to the IRS back taxes will be paid with penalties." "Margaret, that would ruin me." "Robert, you're already ruined. The question is, will you be ruined in prison or through cooperation?" Silence. Patricia broke the silence. "Robert, is this all true?" Robert looked defeated. Some of it might be questionable practices." "Questionable practices?" Kevin exploded. "This is tax fraud, theft, criminal activity." "Robert," I said, "decision time. Either you work with me and make voluntary disclosure to the IRS, or I report everything to federal authorities." "Margaret, please." "Robert, I stayed silent for 30 years out of family loyalty." But when you tried to have me declared mentally incompetent, that loyalty ended. Susan was looking at the documents. Robert, this evidence is overwhelming. Margaret is right. Robert collapsed back into his chair. What? What would voluntary disclosure involve? Full accounting. All unreported income. Back taxes with penalties. Probably $2.8 million total. Robert winced. Alternative, federal investigation, criminal charges, prison sentence, asset forfeiture, public scandal. Margaret, he pleaded, I don't have $2.8 million liquid. Robert, you have offshore accounts, plus properties, investments, you can liquidate. That would leave me with nothing. Robert, you are going to leave me with nothing. With the Alzheimer excuse. The truth hung in the air. Patricia stood up. Robert, you were trying to manipulate Margaret. Patricia, I was trying to protect family assets. Protect? You were stealing. You stole Margaret's inheritance. Kevin was furious. Robert, you're a fraud. Margaret has every right to expose you. Susan nodded. Margaret, you're completely right. Robert should face accountability. Robert looked around the room. No allies left. Margaret, he said quietly, if I agree to voluntary disclosure and pay back the inheritance, will you keep quiet about the rest? Robert, this isn't a negotiation. This is justice. Please, Margaret. I'm 78 years old. Prison would kill me. Robert, you tried to have a 75-year-old woman declared mentally incompetent and steal her assets. Age isn't an excuse. A standoff moment. Finally, Robert broke. Okay, I'll work with a tax attorney. Voluntary disclosure. Pay back the inheritance. Full disclosure, Robert. Every unreported cent. Yes. And a public apology to the family, especially to me. Margaret. Robert, you made the choice to try to destroy me. Now you face the consequences. Okay, public apology. 3 months later, Robert completed the voluntary disclosure. The IRS settled for $2.4 million in back taxes and penalties. My inheritance of $922,000 was returned in full. Robert sold properties, liquidated offshore accounts, and dramatically downsized his lifestyle, from millionaire businessman to modest retiree. The public apology was emotional. At Thanksgiving dinner, with the whole extended family present. Everyone, Robert stood. I owe apologies, especially to Margaret. I betrayed family trust, stole inheritances, and attempted to discredit Margaret when she discovered the truth. Margaret, he turned to me, you stayed silent for 30 years to protect me. I repaid your gratitude with cruelty. I'm deeply ashamed. Robert, I said calmly, accountability is the first step. Rebuilding trust is a long process. I understand. Today, Robert is a much humbled man. Modest apartment, used car, limited income, but no prison sentence. And me, still living independently, sharp as ever, and $922,000 richer. Plus the satisfaction of justice served. Family dynamics have completely changed. Everyone now knows that Margaret Walsh is not a confused elderly woman, but a sharp, meticulous, patient woman who documented the truth for 3 decades. When my brother Robert said at the family meeting, Margaret, you're getting old, your mind is confused, your financial affairs should be under our control. I knew it was time to reveal the truth I'd been hiding for 30 years. While he was trying to steal my money by calling me a forgetful old woman, I showed him the documents of his tax evasion, fake companies, and offshore accounts. Sometimes patience is not weakness. Sometimes it's strategy. Robert learned that underestimating an elderly woman can be a very expensive mistake. And I learned that truth, carefully documented and properly timed, is the most powerful weapon of all.